Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Funded Fast Chat. I am Rochelle Butler, Energy Manager with the San Joaquin Valley Clean Energy Organization. Thank you so much for being with us, and as always, I am super excited to be with you this morning. Before we get started, we are going to go ahead and just take care of our housekeeping really quickly. Please make note that all of your microphones have been muted upon joining the call this morning. That's simply to reduce background noise. If you have any questions at all during the call, please feel free to go ahead and submit them using your chat box. We'll make some time at the end to address any of those questions you might have. Next, I would just like to give everyone just a really quick reminder to go ahead and connect with us on any one of our many platforms. You can access any of these resources by going to our website at www.sjvcleanenergy.org. Again, that's www.sjvcleanenergy.org. And without any further ado, I would like to turn it over to our very special guest from PineSpire. PineSpire is an implementer of the program that assists partners with navigating the Low Carbon Fuel Standard, or LCFS credits process. Please welcome Ryan Huggins and Patrick Dawson to the Fast Chat.
Hi, thanks everyone for joining, and thanks for the introduction, Michelle. We're excited to be here and talk with you guys today. I know low carbon fuel standard credits doesn't sound like the most interesting thing to do on a Tuesday morning, but we want to just boil it down for you and show how it can add revenue for your sustainability initiatives, for things you've already done and things you want to do in the future with relatively little effort. So yeah, we'll just walk through that, and happy to answer any questions, like I said, at the end. First slide, please. So we'll hit the highlights first. We want to just make sure everybody understands the benefit of LCFS credits. They're non-competitive, so this isn't like you're investing time in a grant opportunity that you may or may not be awarded or may run out before you have a chance to submit. So if you're eligible, you're eligible. They're recurring, so you'll continue to receive payment on a regular basis from these. It's not a one-time thing, and even if you think about smaller opportunities like maybe some passenger vehicle chargers, they may not be high dollar on a monthly basis, but it adds up over time. And then this is just revenue you can put towards your sustainability initiatives. You can put it towards your budget. You can basically use this revenue to serve your needs, which is really great. It doesn't have as many strings attached and documentation requirements as some other grants and other things like that. And you can stack it with other opportunities. So this is compatible with grants, with tax credits, with other rebates and other opportunities with utility electrification programs. A lot of these can all go together. So this is just a piece of the puzzle that's easy to do now and can help you get more opportunities in the future that are compatible with it. Next slide.
Great, thanks Ryan, and I'm Patrick, but today we'll run through the basics of this LCFS program, how can we can create revenue from vehicles with a low carbon fuel standard, or LCFS, what kind of vehicles are eligible, and the steps on how to move forward from this presentation. Next slide.
So we want to just walk you guys through it so everybody kind of has a sense of where this program comes from and why it exists without having to get too far into the jargon. It's part of the AB 32 measures, which is a pretty sweeping greenhouse gas reduction measures you guys are probably all familiar with. This is one piece of that really focuses on fuel for transportation. So that is the universe within we're operating here. It started in 2009, and it kind of took a while to get the regulation in place and get it off the ground, but it's been a really strong market force, increasingly so in the last few years. So that's why you're probably hearing more and more about it. And it's basically designed to help suppliers clean up their carbon score, and end users that are investing in electric vehicles, for example, to benefit from this program and benefit from those smart choices. And just to clarify, because this comes up a lot, it is regulated by CARB. It's not an air quality standard. So zero emission vehicles are great because they do improve air quality, but they also meet LCFS credit requirements. So that's just, they operate in parallel, but this is not about air quality in terms of this regulation. And then there's some links in here, so if in the future anybody wants to dive in deep, there's more resources available. Next slide.
Great. And I find the best way to visualize this program through the graph on this slide. So as you can see, credits are generated by fuels that are used below that carbon intensity line, so that declining graph. And then the further away you get from that line, the more credits you produce. So for deficit generators, if you're above that line, the more carbon fuel you use, the more deficits you create. So CARB administers the actual credits, and then there's a marketplace where those credits can be bought and sold. Fuel producers need to purchase these credits in order to stay in compliance with the program and meet their deficits. The price for these credits is based on this marketplace, not by CARB. And there is a price cap, but besides that, it's an open marketplace. So the credits can only, currently they're trading near the cap, but they can't, wildly swing up above, to infinity. There is a limit on how high they can go. We can go to the next slide.
Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. This is a cap and trade, and that, it's all about the deficits and credits, and that's where this money source is coming from, or the people that have the deficits. But again, we just want to talk a little bit more about CARB's role, because that does come up so often, particularly, Valley Air and things like that. So in the LCFS market, CARB is acting like a referee. They're making sure all the credits, they issue them because they verify that people are in compliance and they're not double counting and making things up. And they also make sure that the people producing fuel above the carbon standard are getting allocated the appropriate amount of deficit, so that everybody's playing by the same rules here. They're not setting the price per se, they just set a cap, and they just make sure everybody's on the playing field, but it's an open marketplace in terms of like how you generate credits, if you generate credits, what you buy and sell them for with other parties. That is much more of an open marketplace. And again, you can think about a lot of the sticks in terms of the air quality and other things where, you have to spend money to be in compliance, and you have to make these upgrades and to meet regulatory requirements. And this is more of a carrot where they're setting up a structure so you can be incentivized to make those choices instead of paying penalties for not making those choices. We're on the carrot end of the stick and carrot spectrum. Next slide.
Great, so now we'll talk about the LCFS credit creation process. We have tried to simplify this credit creation process, although it can get pretty complicated. And this graphics kind of goes over the major steps. So first, we have to collect the major equipment information and register that equipment with CARB. Once that equipment is registered, we can either measure the amount of energy that piece of equipment, say an EV charger, uses, or for some vehicles such as forklifts, we can actually estimate that energy consumption by how much that forklift is operated. Once we have the total energy consumption for all vehicles, we can actually produce a derivative product, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with, renewable energy credits. And those are used to enhance or create more credits for each kilowatt hour that the vehicles use. So that really is just used as a mechanism to, quote unquote, clean up the fuel. From there, we submit quarterly reports to CARB for each vehicle and those derivative products. CARB goes through a verification process to ensure that we've submitted the accurate information, and then releases those credits for that energy usage. And this is done on a quarterly basis. So there is some lag in terms of when the energy is consumed to when the credits are actually created, but that's based on CARB's timelines. From there, we then transact in this marketplace to sell credit to buyers. And that's really, there's a few different ways you can transact in that market. We transact in that market ourselves, whereas, there's also brokerage services that if you decide to go through this process on your own, that you can utilize to sell your credits. Next slide.
So that's kind of the overview. We're in this regulatory universe. It's an open marketplace, and you do all these steps to be able to participate. Now we want to talk about like how much is this worth and why you should do it. So again, this is just a good incentive opportunity that's kind of money left on the table. It's low risk, and you're eligible if you have any electric equipment. So this graph shows the different value. You know, the really striking thing is really big equipment like a refuse truck generates a lot of revenue. Smaller equipment like an EV charger, you know, at a public library or a municipal office, it's going to generate a lot less revenue, more like $500 compared to, you know, $13,000 per year. That said, the important thing to know is the more you charge, the more you make. So there's not a minimum, but every time you charge, you're generating more credits. So these numbers here are based on sort of industry standard usage of what we see, both from our customers and from research on, you know, school buses and things like that. And based on the pricing we offer, just so you know, the LCF price does fluctuate in the market. So if you go it directly, you may see different values. This is the information we have, so that's what we're providing. But yeah, you can see that it adds up. If you look at your whole fleet, you know, say 20 EV chargers, and you have your own fleet vehicles, and maybe some school buses and a refuse truck, you know, you could be looking at almost $50,000 a year, which if you look at year over year, and that's the important thing to keep in mind, really accumulates, you know, could be $230,000 over 5 years, which goes a long way towards municipal budgets. So, you know, you can plug in the numbers in your own head for your own fleet, but we want to provide an example of also to get you thinking about the future. You can start now and add. So as you electrify more in the future, you can keep this in mind of how it can bring revenue down the road. Next slide.
So eligible vehicles, there's a long list of eligible vehicles, but to boil it down, most electric vehicles that have wheels can be registered. I know most of you folks may be thinking, oh, golf courses, perfect example. Golf carts are actually not eligible for this program, but almost everything else can be. So, you know, anything from public transportation, buses, trolleys, to, you know, even if just your municipality wants to install car chargers that you actually don't own the cars for, but just the chargers, those chargers will create credits. So each vehicle has a specific ratio for how many LCFS credits 1 kilowatt hour of energy usage creates. And this is based on that specific vehicle type and its carbon intensity. So as Ryan mentioned on the last slide, you know, a garbage truck creates more credits than an EV charger, and that's mostly because a garbage truck is a lot more carbon intense than just a regular passenger vehicle. One thing to keep in mind is that this should be a comprehensive program that can maximize and capture revenue for all the vehicles you own or operate, or all the infrastructure you own and operate. So really, we can do anything from a pallet jack to a car charger to a school bus, to even semis. So there's plenty of opportunities, and at least us at PineSpire, if you have a large enough fleet to do this on your own, really make sure that you're capturing every single vehicle that you may have, and that's eligible. Next slide.
So we just wanted to dive in a little more and give an example. Since car chargers are a common first step a lot of municipalities take. So for example, for every 100,000 miles charged, the charger owner would receive about $3,000 in revenue. So that can add up and certainly help finance more of that. And another important thing is in terms of your sustainability goals is that's also 32 metric tons of carbon reduced and 3,500 gallons of gasoline saved. So a nice part about this LCFS program is that because it's data-based and based on charging data, it almost tracks your sustainability goals and progress for you. So, you know, if you're getting a monthly report and doing these submittals, you're going to have that information that you can easily translate and, you know, update a calculator on your website to show what you're doing, or put into your, you know, council updates on your climate action plan, or, you know, what other sustainability initiatives you want to make. This is going to keep track of it for you. Next slide.
So a refuse truck or a garbage truck is a great example of creating an impact at the local community level. So these vehicles, as most people know, are used throughout neighborhoods mostly and in the community, and can actually have a direct impact to air quality locally. Through the LCFS program, you should be able to offset most, if not all, of your electricity costs from using the garbage truck. This really pushes the financial benefits, especially when you think about the ongoing cost of purchasing diesel. So really, you're creating a local impact that hopefully will create, not an ongoing cost for you, whereas a regular garbage truck would. There's also a lot of grant opportunities for these kind of vehicles that a lot of public agencies are eligible for. And that's the same thing for the charging infrastructure for these large vehicles, which shouldn't be ignored either because they can draw a lot of electricity. Next slide.
Great. And yeah, this just touching on the data again. I'm a data nerd. We all love data around here. So this is a great mechanism to consolidate all of your EV data and your charging data, which can help document sustainability goals. And if you remember that thing Patrick said about derivative products and enhancing your credits, when you participate in LCFS, if you're enhancing your credits, that actually brings your carbon score lower than it would just off the grid energy. So like you're actually getting another boost to your greenhouse gas reductions, and that it would be documented in this. We also think it's a really good way of being prepared to put in the budget future things because you have this handy data on how much this was used, what your return is on it. And if you're looking to apply for grants and things like that, you've got this information kind of at hand so that when you have to jump on a grant opportunity, you've already got this documentation and it's really creditable because you can see it's pulled from real information. So there's a bunch of different ways things can be metered. Happy to answer that if there's any specific questions, but you can either have smart chargers or install meters on them. Pine Spire's model is that we would finance those meters out of the LCFS credit, so it's no upfront cost, but there's different ways you can cut that based on your own electrician preferences and metering information. So either way you do it, you're going to have this data because you need it for the LCFS credits. Next slide.
So we wanted this to be an actionable webinar. So a big first start to ensure you can participate in these and really get your EVs going is to start an inventory and register your entire fleet. This allows you to estimate what you currently have that is electric and what you may want to transition to electric in the future. It also allows you to figure out how much revenue you can create from the LCFS credits for each specific vehicle to better understand the long-term financial benefits of going electric. When public funding options do become available, having this inventory should make it easy to apply for and hopefully win sometimes competitive opportunities. Adding future expected vehicles to the inventory will also help you plan for future infrastructure, which always needs to be considered when you're looking at your EV fleet. There's plenty of opportunities through both utility and grant programs to get funding to help offset those infrastructure costs. Next slide.
Yeah, and lastly, anybody that's participating in this Funded Fast Chat knows this, and SJV CEO does a great job of providing you guys all sorts of information on funding sources, but just to lay them out there, there's tax credits, there's Valley Air grants, there's the VW Mitigation Trust, utility infrastructure that Patrick just alluded to, and there's occasionally other grants that come and go, and it's always just good to be in touch with that. So we do, personally, we see that as part of our outreach. Like I said, obviously SJV CEO is doing a great job of reaching out to you about that too. And it's just a good idea to always look for those opportunities to stack them together and have a plan in the future. So when you get that alert as soon as that opportunity comes up and you are ready to act on it, that's the best way to keep your personal costs lower. So yeah, electrification's, it's the way the world is going. So it's a matter of planning on how to get there and how to budget for it. Next slide.
So a little bit about us. We say we handle everything from registration to revenue. We really like to be your long-term partner with both LCFS and electrification planning. So that includes really helping you create an electrification plan and help with the long-term management of those EVs and the EV infrastructure. So what we showed today was just some really like basic level guaranteed pricing. So that is something we offer, is we can offer, you know, a guaranteed price so you don't take market risk, as well as tailored revenue shares, or however you want to slice it. We can, you know, be your tailored partner to help with that. And yeah, we really just want to see more folks participate in the LCFS program and adopt more EV infrastructure. So if you have any questions, we always just want to get the knowledge out there. And I think that's the biggest thing for us, is making sure that, you know, whether it be our customers or just folks on this call, have the information and the knowledge to go out and start participating in these programs, whether it's with us or, you know, we totally support going out on your own and working through this process yourself as well. So yeah, these are some of our services. And I think next slide, and maybe any questions.
Yeah, questions, answers, we have answers.
No questions is fine too.
Yeah, I don't see any questions popping up in our chat. But, you know, while people might still be kind of spinning on those questions, I just wanted to just provide a couple of last minute thoughts I have here. I would like to thank Ryan and Patrick. Thank you so much for reaching out and for joining us for the Fast Chat this morning. If any of you all are on the call, don't, you know, try to hurry up and write down all of the information you see on here. I will send out a follow-up email after the call that will include both Ryan and Patrick's contact information, as well as any other, as well as a link to the recording of this Fast Chat. And anything else that we've done in the past, I'll make sure that you have links to any related Fast Chats as far as EVs is concerned. So I still don't see any questions pop up, which kind of surprised me, but you know, we're always here if you guys want to reach out with anything. I'll go ahead and I will wrap us up. That was our question slide. I encourage everyone, please share the Fast Chat with anyone you think may be interested. You never know how these conversations might strike up ideas about new projects, or if any, you know, you never know who might be able to benefit from this information. So our next Fast Chat is already on the calendar for April 13th at 10 a.m. and we'll be announcing that topic very soon. And I would like to thank everyone again for joining us. And I hope you all have a wonderful week. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.